Hi, I'm Kenzie. Welcome back to my podcast. If you are just joining, welcome. Today we will be talking about my 11th Little Bear VHS, Snacktime Tales. This VHS includes Little Bear and the Cupcakes, To Grandmother's House, Birthday Soup, and Gingerbread Cookies. First, let's talk about Little Bear and the Cupcakes. This episode starts out with Mother Bear painting a flower pot while Little Bear and Emily were making cupcakes. First, they added flour. They sneezed. Mother Bear asked if everything was all right. Little Bear assured her everything was fine. Then he and Emily added lots of honey, but got it all over Little Bear's hands. Mother Bear asked if they needed any help. Little Bear reassured her that they were fine, and it was going really well. Really. Then Emily got all kinds of ingredients from the cupboard, including a fish. Yes, a fish. Then Little Bear mixed the batter, and he and Emily poured it into the cupcake tin. Little Bear gave it a taste test. He thought it tasted interesting. Of course, it wasn't even cooked yet. He called to Mother Bear that he and Emily were ready for the baking part. It makes sense that Mother Bear came in to help with the oven. After all, ovens get very hot. Mother Bear thought the batter in the tin looked interesting and put it into the oven. Then Little Bear turned over an egg timer and then he and Emily waited till all the sand ran out. After a while, time was up. The cupcakes were cooked. They looked done, but they needed to be cooled. Yeah, more waiting unfortunately. After a while, Little Bear and Emily were about to take a bite out of the cupcakes when, ow! Their cupcakes were hard as rocks. Mother Bear asked again if everything was all right. Little Bear reassured her everything was fine, when in reality everything was not fine. So Little Bear grabbed a bag and Emily put the cupcakes into them. Then Mother Bear came into the kitchen to be offered a cupcake. Little Bear and Emily told her that they ate them. All of them. What a lie. Anyway, Mother Bear decided to make a batch of cupcakes of her own. Little Bear and Emily helped. Then Mother Bear told them a story about how Little Bear was cooked on cupcakes. That meant that when Little Bear was in Mother Bear's tummy getting ready to be born, she was making cupcakes all the time. Then a scene transitions to Mother Bear being pregnant and making cupcakes. She tasted the batter. The scene transitions to the present where Little Bear asked if he liked the cupcake batter. He did, but he didn't lick the bowl because he wasn't even born yet. But he was big enough to lick the bowl now. Emily told Mother Bear that she made the best cupcakes, but she didn't always. Then the scene transitions back to the past where Mother Bear was wondering what went wrong with the cupcake. Instead of baking cupcakes, she baked a bunch of rocks. It turned out she left out one essential ingredient, baking powder. You see, baking powder makes the cupcakes fluffy and soft. After explaining that, Emily and Little Bear blew on the cupcakes since they were hot and ate them. Then they told Mother Bear the truth about their cupcakes they made. They didn't eat all of them because they turned into rocks too. They just forgot the baking powder. Then Cat entered the scene smelling something good. He came inside to enjoy a cupcake with a fish inside. He tried to eat it, but he couldn't. He said, "Why is this sardine stuck in this rock?" Everyone laughed while Cat got confused. And that's how the episode ends. Now let's talk about the episode as a whole. I feel like this episode was a great one. I mean, it had cupcakes, one of my favorite desserts. They look so good to eat. Also, seeing the process of making them made me wish I was doing the same thing. It's fun to cook things with your family and friends. And people make mistakes too. But as long as you have fun, that's what really matters. All in all, it's a great episode. Now let's talk about To Grandmother's House. This episode starts out with Little Bear pulling his wagon towards the door. It turned out he was packing for a trip to his grandmother's house. He packed cookies for Grandfather Bear, blackberry jam for Grandmother Bear, and soup for him. He hugged Mother Bear and Father Bear and was off. The wagon was kind of off-balanced, so Little Bear grabbed a little bit of pine boughs, put them in his wagon, and the wagon was steady the whole way through. Along the way, Little Bear ran into Duck and some ducklings. They were having biscuits and jam. She asked Little Bear if he would like some. Little Bear said sure. The problem was they finished the jam before Little Bear could have some with his biscuit. Little Bear told her he got some jam in his wagon. Duck thought that was incredibly lucky and told everyone Little Bear had brought them some jam. Little Bear tried to tell Duck he was saving it for his grandparents, but Duck interrupted him and said it was so thoughtful of him. The scene transitions to Little Bear's blackberry jam jar empty. He couldn't believe it, but he did thank Duck and the ducklings for the biscuit after they thanked him for the jam. Then Little Bear had to get going. He, Duck, and the ducklings said goodbye, and Little Bear was off. The scene transitions to Little Bear running into Cat. Cat noticed something in the pot. It was soup, Little Bear's favorite. The pot was a bit too full, though. Cat figured they could empty it in some bowls. The thing was, Little Bear didn't have any bowls, but Cat did. The scene transitions to Little Bear and Cat with full stomachs. The soup pot wasn't full anymore. In fact, it was empty. Well, at least Little Bear had the cookies. He had to get going, so Cat said see you to him. The scene transitions to Little Bear running into Hen. She wondered what he got in the wagon. Little Bear explained that all he had are some cookies. Hen asked what was so bad about them, and that they looked fine to her. Then she tried one just to make sure. So did Little Bear. Hen asked where Little Bear was going. Little Bear explained he was going to Grandmother's house, but it was taking longer than he thought. He then further explained that he brought them some soup, some jam, and some cookies, but now they were all gone. Hen was shocked. She thought he ate all the gifts for his grandparents. Little Bear explained it was not just him. He ran into Duck, Cat, and then Hen. Hen told him he had to get going because she didn't want him to be late, too. The scene transitions to Little Bear finally at his grandparents' house. He explained to them that he was bringing them gifts. Just as he was about to explain that they had been eaten, Grandmother Bear noticed the pine boughs. She said they were a great gift. It was just what they needed. She placed them on the picture frames as a decoration. Then Grandfather Bear said that they should all have lunch. Grandmother Bear said that they would have Little Bear's favorite, soup, bread and jam, and cookies. It turned out Little Bear didn't have to go through all the trouble of bringing his grandparents food. Little Bear said it sounded very good. And that's how the episode ends. Now let's talk about the episode as a whole. I feel this episode was a classic story. It's fun to visit your grandparents. Also, when Little Bear's grandparents had all the food that Little Bear was going to bring to them, I thought that was hilarious. I mean, like I said, he didn't have to go through all this trouble. Of course, even if Little Bear didn't go through all this trouble, this episode wouldn't work. There has to be something in a story that has to work. All in all, it's a classic episode. Now let's talk about birthday soup. This episode starts out with Little Bear waking up one morning saying that today was his birthday. He called to Mother Bear, but she wasn't anywhere. Not in her bedroom, not in the kitchen, and not even outside. Well, Mother Bear was outside, then she went back out. Little Bear just couldn't find her, though. He thought Mother Bear had forgotten his birthday. His friends would be over soon for cake and games. That's when Little Bear decided that he would be the host. He found carrots, potatoes, peas, and tomatoes. They would not make a cake, so he decided to make birthday soup. He dragged a big pot, filled it with water, and put the vegetables in it. Mother Bear was about to come in to see what Little Bear was doing, but she didn't. Little Bear didn't notice her. He was too busy making the birthday soup. Then a knock on the door was heard. It was Hen. She had honey for him. Then Duck came. She had dandelions for Little Bear. Then Cat startled Little Bear and gave him an apple. Little Bear didn't know where to put his gifts, so he decided to put them in the soup. They just had to wait for it to be done. Until then, they played musical chairs. Little Bear turned the handle on the gramophone, put the needle on the disc, and the game and music had begun. Cat was going fast and passing Duck and Hen. The music stopped. Duck was out. It was between Hen and Cat. Cat was just too fast. After the music stopped again, he won. He won a ball of yarn as a prize. Duck, Hen, and Little Bear watched him play with his prize. After that, the soup was ready. So Little Bear offered some soup to his friends. Duck thought it was delicious. Hen thought it was divine. Cat was full. He gave the soup to Duck. As Little Bear was playing with his soup by stirring it with a spoon, he wondered where Mother Bear could be. That's when Cat noticed her. She shushed him. Cat winked at her. Little Bear was all out of things to do. Cat suggested that he should close his eyes and count to 3. So he did. Then Mother Bear appeared with the cake. Little Bear thought she had forgotten his birthday. Mother Bear explained that she wanted to surprise him with a cake, but it took longer than she expected. She never did forget his birthday, and she never will. Then Little Bear blew out all the candles and made a wish, but he didn't tell because if he did, it wouldn't come true. Then Duck wished somebody would cut the cake. Everyone laughed and said happy birthday to Little Bear. And that's how the episode ends. Now let's talk about the episode as a whole. I feel like this episode was also a classic. Did you know this was part of the first book before it became an episode segment? It's true. Also, there is one part that kind of confuses me. When Hen said that the soup was divine, I don't know if she meant it or if she was being sarcastic. I didn't think about it when I was young, but once you get older, you start to think about these kinds of things. All in all, it's still a good episode. Now let's talk about gingerbread cookies. This episode starts with Little Bear and Emily playing with their gingerbread cookies they made. Granny decided to make a few extra cookies for their friends because it was always a good idea to make extra cookies just in case. So she got started. As she was cutting gingerbread cookie shapes, she recited a little rhyme. It goes like this. Hickory dickory 6 and 7. Allabone, crackabone, 10 and 11. Spin, spun, almost done. Twiddlum, twaddlum, 21. After she was done reciting it, she taught Emily and Little Bear the rhyme. The thing was, they couldn't figure out how to say the last line. The scene transitioned to Granny, Emily, and Little Bear putting frosting on the cookies. Granny made her cookie look like the grand leader. Emily made her cookie look like the queen. Little Bear just covered his cookie with polka dots. As Tutu licked the frosting off the floor, Granny put the cookies in the oven. Then they had to wait. After a while, they checked. The cookies were not quite done yet. After more of a while, Granny took the cookies out of the oven. The thing was they were too hot to eat. They had to be cooled, but Little Bear and Emily had to watch them very carefully. If they don't, the cookies would just get up and run away. Yes, that's what Granny said. Also, gingerbread cookies love to play in the snow. Little Bear and Emily had to watch the cookies for as long as it takes. As Granny went outside to get firewood and recited part of the rhyme, Little Bear and Emily did their best to recite the rest of it. They did. They got the last part right. As they repeated the last line of the rhyme, the snow made the gingerbread cookies move. They slid through the door. Little Bear and Emily tried to catch them. Soon they saw Owl. They explained to him they were trying to catch the gingerbread cookies which Owl said he loves. He joined them in the chase. They ran past Duck, who was ice skating on the frozen pond, until the gingerbread cookies hit her and she fell. Duck loved gingerbread cookies, so she joined in the chase. Soon the gingerbread cookies woke up Cat by walking on his back. Cat was so surprised he jumped up and landed in the snow. Little Bear, Emily, Duck, and Owl ran past him, mentioning the gingerbread cookies. Cat loved gingerbread cookies, so he joined in the chase. The gingerbread cookies ran back inside. So did Little Bear and his friends. Granny was also inside and said that it was a good thing the gingerbread cookies didn't run away. Everyone was confused when they picked a cookie and looked at it. Little Bear then said that there was only one way to make sure the gingerbread cookies don't run away, and that was to eat them. As they were eating, Little Bear asked if anyone saw the Grand Leader gingerbread cookie. Nobody did, but the camera angled it to the Grand Leader gingerbread cookie outside, shouting that he was free. And that's how the episode ends. Now let's talk about the episode as a whole. I feel like this episode was a good one. Those gingerbread cookies looked good enough to eat. I like gingerbread cookies. I like to make gingerbread houses with my family around the holidays. What kind of gingerbread tree do you like? Let me know if you want. All in all, it's a good episode. So yeah, that's Snacktime Tales. If you would like to play again, just go back to the beginning of this episode. See you next time. Bye!